So, as of writing and recording this script, around the end of April 2020, everything just kind of sucks right now. A lot of people are getting dangerously sick and dying like nothing we've ever seen in human history. And I'm stuck either completely at home or working far more hours than I'm comfortable with no real way to change that. So, in my attempt to lighten someone's days somewhere, this is the filler catch-up. As I said in the previous arc analysis video for Fairy Tail's Phantom Lord arc, this is a break in form for this series, because there's some filler stuff in between arcs that I haven't covered yet and probably should. This also gives me an opportunity to explain crucial information that I left out by mistake, so you guys are all on the same page before we move forward into the series. Today I'm going to cover the events from before Lullaby to the events in between Phantom Lord and the next arc, the Tower of Heaven. It should go by a lot quicker than the arc videos because there's not a lot of pertinent information to go over, but just enough to be worth dedicating a video to. So with that out of the way, let's do this. This is some pretty simple stuff, not a whole lot to cover here. Lucy meets Natsu and Happy for the first time and later gets involved in a human trafficking scheme run by this guy Bora, who I called Bill in my Fairy Tail Abridged video 2 years ago? In reference to famous rapist Bill Cosby. So clever, I know, and yes, I do regret it a little bit, because he claimed to be a member of Fairy Tail, Lucy's dream guild. Natsu shows up because, yeah, okay, Bora gets beat up and Lucy joins Fairy Tail. Look, the opening episode shows us something that I don't think many people remember, which is that Fairy Tail as a work of fiction is Lucy's story, not Natsu's. He is a main character, but he isn't the protagonist. It's Lucy joining Fairy Tail that kicks off the whole story, not Natsu. Just something to keep in mind. A while later, the new trio join up and steal a book called Daybreak from a rich dude played by the wonderful Chris Ayers, because the son of the author of Daybreak wants to burn the book for reasons until Lucy shows him that if you anagram the entire novel, it's actually a love letter named Dear Camille. She also gets a key from the rich dude because the spirit thought that Lucy sucked less. But we don't find this out until Aragorn decided to give the guild a no you because Happy was uncharacteristically forgetful then. I never really talked about anybody's magic power sets yet, did I? Alright, here's the quick rundown. Lucy can channel magic power through these celestial spirit keys to temporarily summon celestial spirits that range from a literal grandfather clock to the carrot-nosed dog from Ravemaster, Hiro Mashima's other work that I should probably read at some point, to the legendary 12 Zodiac Keys, which are based on the astrological zodiac signs. Lucy currently has 4 Zodiacs. Aquarius, who can only be summoned in water and has a boyfriend that she won't shut up about. Taurus, a giant buff cow who's a crazy pervert and comments on her, proportions every time he's on screen. Cancer, a hairstylist so good he can cut your hair longer and ends most sentences with the word baby. And now Virgo, who can just kinda dig holes with her face and is a little too into BDSM to be much of anything but comic relief. I'm not kink shaming, it's literally just her entire personality. Natsu is a fire dragon slayer, which is a magic specifically designed to kill dragons and which was taught to him by his surrogate father, Igneel, a dragon. Well, anyway, he can basically produce fire from any part of his body, it's fine. Gray is an ice wizard specializing in maker magic, which lets his ice take the form of essentially anything he wants, from a shield to a bazooka to some neat arm swords we'll see later. Urza is the ultimate weapons and armor lobby, and she can swap out each for any other she has stored in some sort of alternate dimension, and Happy can fly sometimes. Moving on to After Lullaby. The Magic Council, the highest part of Fiore's governmental structure aside from the king and his royal family, which I guess makes this a constitutional monarchy of sorts, decides that, hey, Fairy Tail blowing up an entire city was probably a bad idea, and they should be held to some sort of standard given that they are the highest ranked guild, which I do not disagree with. Eisenwald has been taken into custody, minus Aragorn because he can fly, I suppose. Natsu has a rematch with Urza to make up for the time he got destroyed before we even met anyone in this show, which lasts for about 20 seconds before Urza gets taken away for questioning in front of the Magic Council. Natsu decides to be incredibly stupid and barge into the courthouse before being told that no, it was actually just a ruse, or a formality, because the council wants to remind everyone that hey, laws may be a thing to follow, but we can't punish Fairy Tail because they had the protagonist in their guild. At least Todd Habercorn is having fun in the booth. I always love hearing that. And it turns out that Urza and this blue-haired guy with a red face scar / tattoo know each other, and I'll get to that in the Tower of Heaven arc. There's this other dude in Fairy Tail who exists but isn't needed just yet. He shows up in the arc after the Tower of Heaven for reasons, but that doesn't get resolved until maybe 3 or 4 arcs later. Just, he's there doing stuff in the background, don't worry about it. This is also when Happy and Natsu steal that Galuna Island job request from the S-Class floor, so Galuna Island happens from there. You like fan service? You like body swap episodes? You're going to like episode 19. If you don't worry about it, you could skip it. Only thing that really matters here is that this body swap sort of acts as the real punishment for defying guild rules, since Macabre deems it enough of an embarrassment to count as such. There's also some foreshadowing to the fact that Loki isn't normal, in that when he's in Natsu's body, he can't control his magic, and Natsu can't feel anything in terms of magic power in Loki's body. The body swap gets resolved later, and by resolved, I mean it gets resolved off-screen because actually it got worse with everyone but Grand Lucy being swapped, but the episode is done and the setup for Loki has been completed. Whatever. Next episode is an extended flashback that shows Natsu's relationship with Lizana, Elfman and Mira's younger sister who got murdered by the former after they all went on an S-Class job request for the latter. Basically, it's what 7-year-olds think adulting is, nothing to mention, aside from the fact that after she was killed, he went back to the house, I guess he has for some reason, and built her a grave to remember her by. This flashback only happens because of the B-plot, where Natsu eats a giant fish and Happy gets mad at him, so they spend the day apart and angry at each other. That's honestly about what I expected for this show. Okay, so technically that's not exactly accurate. The flashback is mostly separate from the B-plot. The flashback only really happens because of this other plot where Lucy and Mira Jane talk about memories in a library. That doesn't affect my opinion of the episode overall, but I still needed to mention it. The gang work a stage play for some dude, and Bora makes an appearance, this time not to traffic women into slavery. He claims it was all an act, which is about as convincing an argument as the one R. Kelly, another known rapist, gave interviewer Gayle King by standing up and screaming around the room while she sat there like a total boss. There's also a bunch of people from previous arcs, like that Galuna Island demon that totally doesn't want to bang Gray, oh, don't worry about that, and the Phantom Lord lackeys that went along with Gagio. Everything goes wrong, and the theater breaks, and yeah, that all checks out, I guess. Time for the real meat of the filler. So, Loki. There's been a good amount of setup as to the fact that he isn't a normal person, and after seeing him interact with Lucy in a bunch of weird ways over the course of 2 or 3 episodes, we find out that he is literally going to die. Because he's not human. He never was. The reason why he doesn't have any magic power in his body is because he's actually a celestial spirit. Specifically, the Zodiac spirit Leo. And flashback. About 3 years ago, he was contracted to serve under many different Celestial Wizards, one of them being the woman he mentioned in the Phantom Lord arc, Karen, from Blue Pegasus, the guild of the totally not stereotyped gay dude, Master Bob. Karen was abusing Leo and another Zodiac spirit, Ares, so being the strongest of the Zodiacs, he took a stand. He summoned himself to the material plane and told Karen he would not go back to the Celestial Spirit World until Karen agreed to release them both from their contracts. And until that point, since only incredibly powerful Celestial Wizards can summon 2 spirits at the same time, she will be unable to work since Leo is operating on his own power, but as her only available summon. About a couple months of pleading go by until Master Bob comes by with news that Karen found no choice but to take a job request since she was behind on rent and needed money, tried to summon a second Celestial Spirit, and in the process, died. And due to some BS Celestial Spirit law, any spirit to be found guilty of killing the wizard they serve is banished, which is literally a death sentence because the material plane drains their life force over time. Leo had somehow survived for over 3 years on his own power while taking cover as Loki of Fairy Tail. Now he's out of power and is consigned to disappear forever. Until Lucy decides that him doing the right thing should not lead to the wrong outcome for him and pulls some BS out of her ass, summoning the Celestial Spirit King. After a bit, she convinces him to allow Leo to go back and continue to be a Zodiac Spirit, and later gives Lucy his Zodiac Key. She now has 6 keys, adding in Sagittarius, the most awkward-looking Centaur cosplayer, maybe? And now Leo, who will continue to be weird with women, especially Virgo. Which reminds me of something, actually. Remember this shot from Phantom Lord? This shot is a lie. Kind of. The way it's framed gives the impression that Karen is still exerting a direct influence on Loki, or at the very least his mental state, and that she would agree that he is pathetic, when in reality it was the exact opposite. She has been dead for 3 years, and she pleaded with him to let her go work again because he stood his ground and had absolute control of the situation. Which confuses me, because at this point, Loki being Leo was probably planned in the writing process, because little hints have been dropped throughout the series so far. No other person in the body swap episode had no way of controlling their magic. The closest thing was probably Lucy being cold in Gray's body, and Gray almost taking off his clothes as Lucy, but Happy could still use all of Urza's magic perfectly fine. So this shot just kind of perplexes me in how much it kind of misses the mark. Final thing that I should probably mention, Zareth. Who the heck is he, and what's his deal? What's his book about? Okay, strap in. 400 years ago, he became the most powerful Dark Wizard of all time, is now basically synonymous with death itself, and is literally anything that comes from his book is a demon of his own creation, meant to terrorize and kill anything and everything it can. Sort of. Lullaby was a demon tool from the Book of Zareth, and Daliora was another demon of the same nature. Most of the arcs in the series will either involve him directly or involve something about him, whether it be a demon from his book or some influence he has on something. So I'd recommend you remember that name at least very vaguely for now, and especially when he starts becoming more and more relevant to the main plot. Anyway, that ends the first installment of the filler catch-up. Next video in this series, we'll move on to the Tower of Heaven, and that's kind of when actual plot that matters for the rest of the series gets laid out. I'll catch up with you later, maybe when I can actually go outside again. And until then, please, stay safe out there. I'm Van Campone, and I will see you guys next time.